Alright guys, so let's continue with building our application. So far we have built our navigation and we have this login form, and currently we have a user that we can log in with. So if I log in with John Terry at gmail.com, and his password was password, and if I log in, you see we get logged in successful with this JavaScript confirm dialog box. And what I would like to do in this video is to change this JavaScript confirm dialog box to a toast notification. And if I hit OK, we get to the welcome page, and we also have this username text here. So I'll be replacing this also with the email of the user until we add the registration form where we can capture the name of the user. Alright, so let's go ahead and install NGS Toaster. So NGS Toaster will give us nice toast notification messages just like this one we have here. And in order for us to use NGS Toaster, we need to install it like this. So npm install NGS Toaster -- save. And NGS Toaster depends on Angular animation. So after we install NGS Toaster, we also want to make sure that we have installed Angular animation. Let's quickly do that. So if I open back up my terminal, and right here I'm going to paste this to install Toaster. This will take some time. While it's installing, I'm going to copy the animation to install the animation as well. So let me clear this up, and I'm going to paste that in. And yeah, we're going to have npm install for us NGS Toaster as well as our Angular animation. So after we've done that, the next thing you want to do is you want to head over to your angular.json configuration file and add in the CSS styles for the NGS Toaster. And the CSS file is this. You can check it up on the node modules just to confirm, but it's going to look like something like this. So you want to copy that over and then paste it in your styles. So I want to paste it here, and please make sure that you are pasting that on the build part in the configuration and not the test part, because you won't get the effect that you want. So I'm going to save that, and because you change this angular.json file, you want to restart the server. Every time you change this file, you want to make sure that you restart the server. So I'm going to quickly run npm serve again. I'll open my terminal up, and here I want to stop the server and run ng serve again. And while that is running, we want to quickly update our app.modules folder. We want to update that with the browser animation module and the toast module. So I'm going to go to our app.module.ts, and first we want to add in the toast module for root. So I'm going to just paste that here, toast module for root, and we are getting that from the toast module import right here. You can just copy this over, and also you want to make sure that you add the browser animation module, and you can replace this with the browser module. So I'm going to put that there, or sorry, I think we can have both. No, you can replace it. So let me just copy the import. I think I got those errors there because I didn't put the import. So now I have the imports, everything looks good. So I'm going to quickly save the file again, and it's going to reload. And here we're still logged in our application, but now we want to bring in the toaster services. So we can do that by importing the toaster service here, and then we can use messages like success and show. So let's go to the login component. So login.component.ts, and you want to inject the toaster service like so. So I'm going to say private. You can call it any name you would prefer. I would say toaster, and then we want to add toast Okay, I have autocomplete here, so it's toaster service. All right, that looks good. And we want to replace this alert here with the toaster service. So I'm going to say this dot toaster dot let's use success to have a green display, and we can say login was successful. All right, and for the error, you can display error messages from the server here by just saying this dot toaster oops this dot toaster dot this time around let's use error, and then we want to pass in those error messages that are coming from Firebase here. So I'm going to save this now, and if we go back to our application now, we log out, and if I try to log back in, you see I'm getting these error messages from the server, and it's formatted with the toast notification. And if we try to log back in, so john.terry at gmail.com, and the password was password, and if I log in, we have a double arrow, but you see our validation works correctly, and now we get the login was successful with the toast notification here. So if I go back to the let's see, if I go back to the navigation page, so navigation.ts right here, and this is where we log out. So when we log out, we can also add a toast notification message. So I'm going to bring the toast service here, and we're going to display a message when we log out. We're going to add a comma there, and after we log out, after we log out, before we navigate back to the login page, we want to display this dot toaster dot, let's just put an info, and let's say you are now logged out. So I'm going to save this now, and you're going to see that if I log out, I get this notification message that says you are now logged out. I didn't add the out, so I'll save it now, and we have our toast notification message. And right now, while we are here on the navigation component, we also would like to display a message. That's for the welcome component, so I'm going to switch over to the welcome component. So I'll go to welcome components.ts, and here we want to display the email of the logged in user, right? So we can get that same way we did for the we can get that from the service. We have a service there in authservice.ts, and we have this get auth method that gets the state of the login user, so we can use that to display the email of the user. So I'm going to go back to the welcome component.ts, and we want to inject that auth service. So I'm going to say private auth service, and we're going to inject the auth service. All right, and then we want to get all the values of the auth service, so initialize it on the ng on init lifecycle hook. So I'm going to do this dot auth service dot get auth, and here we can subscribe to it, and we're going to get back the user, and we can assign this to a variable. So I'm just going to create a variable here, or an object rather, to hold the value of the user. So I can say let user, let it be of type any, and we can assign it to an empty object. Oops. So we can simply do like this. Sorry, I was adding JavaScript to TypeScript. All right, so we can say user any, and we can assign it to an empty object. And right here, we can just simply say this dot user is equal to the user that we get from the backend. All right, so we have that user there, and now we can go ahead and display the email of the logged in user. So if I go to the HTML part, so welcome.html, instead of displaying just the username, which is just the text, we can display the email of the user, and we can do that by saying user.email. All right, so I'm going to save that now, and when we go back to our application, if I log in, so john.terry at gmail.com, and the password is password. So if I log in, we have our toast notification, and we have our email. So it says welcome and with our email right here. So later on, we're going to be changing this to the user's name, but for now, let's have the email right here. All right, so we have the welcome, we have our toast notification. So now let's go ahead and implement this remember me functionality. So when I click on this checkbox right here, I would like to persist the user detail to the application, so that the application can remember the user the next time he tries to log in. So let's work on that next. The thing we want to do started with that is to create a handler for this checkbox right here. So I'm going to switch over to the login .html file, and we'll go to where we have the checkbox, and here we want to add a change event, or event handler rather, and we're going to call it let's just call it remember me. So remember me would be our nice remember me function. Now it's going to break our application because we haven't defined that method there. So we're going back to our login.component.ts to define that method. So login.component.ts, and we want to define that remember me file. So remember method. So remember me. All right, and here this is our method. Oops, and we shouldn't have it in the login, but we should have it here. All right, looks good now. And what we want to do for this remember me is to just set the boolean flag in our service. So we need to define what we would have in this method in our service, and then we're going to call that method from our service. So we would like to have something like this. So this dot auth service dot, let's call it set remember me. Now we don't have this method, but we would like to define this method in our auth service. So now our application is broken because we don't have this method. But then if we go back to our auth services, now we can define that method called remember me, or set remember me rather. So set remember me. So that's our set remember me function there. So I just saved it and we don't have the error anymore. So what we want to do is we want to create a variable here that would hold the session state of the logged in user. So I'm going to call that variable remember me right here. and let's give it a type of string. So we can have different values for this remember me. I can show you in a second the different values we can have from our Firebase would be, if you go to Firebase, then you have auth, and then you want to check the auth variable here. Sorry, we have to import Firebase first because we don't get any IntelliSense here. So we want to quickly import Firebase from Firebase. So we do that like Firebase, and we import Firebase without any braces, like so. And we want to import that from Firebase /app. Alright, so now that we imported the Firebase, our application is broken again, but then we have the auth here, and then we have persistence, and then you see the three values we have for the persistence. We have local, we have a session, and then we have null. So local is the one that we'll be using. So local is going to store our logged in credential to the local storage, while session does it to the session storage. And by default it's actually local. So when you log in, by default it's session, sorry. So when you log in and you close the browser, you get back the credentials, and you're navigated to the as an authenticated user to the system. But then when you use local, you don't get that. So let's set it to local first here. So we say this dot remember me is local, and now we can initialize it here to session. Let's just say it's a string of session right here. So I'm going to save that, and now instead of just returning our sign in function with the email and password, we can use our persistent storage in our login to showcase our set persistence. So we'll be doing that by saying this dot our angular fire auth right here, and then we set the persistence, and we pass that remember me into the function here. So we are setting it now to the session, and we are initializing it here to the local. So when we initialize it to local, we cancel the default one, which is the session, so we don't have the remember me by default. Okay, so we set it now to session there, and then we want to use the then, because that's going to return a promise, and we're going to put our callback function in here, and now we want to pass in our sign in method in our callback, like so. And one more important thing is that we also want to return this so that we can get back any errors if we happen to get any errors while calling that method. So that's it for our remember me checkbox. Now let's try it and see if it works. So now I'm going to log in with our user john.terry@gmail.com, and I'm going to use password, and now I'm going to check this. When I check this, it's going to set it to local. No, it's initialized to local, but then it's going to set it here to the session. All right, so when I log in, now I'm logged in, and if I close this, say by mistake, and I come back here and I go open the application, you see that I'm logged in. So if I log out and I try to log in again, john.terry@gmail.com, and then I enter password, And now I don't check the remember me. I log in and say I close this up and I try to open that application again. You see we are here, but we are not logged in because you don't see the name of the user. Now the next thing we can do is we can protect these routes right here. So if a user is not logged in, he won't be able to access this page. So let's do that next. In order for us to do that, we have to use what we call the auth guard in Angular. So let's quickly generate that. So to generate that, we're going to do ng g4 generate, and we want to generate a guard. So I'm going to say guard, and we want to put that in the guards folder, and let's call it auth guard. And let's keep the test because we're not writing any unit test. So I'm going to generate that. And you have the different methods that you can implement when you're using the auth guard. You can use the can activate method, or you can use the can load method when you are doing the other type of routing. But we'll be going with can activate method, so I'm going to hit enter to choose that one, and our auth guard is created. So I'm going to close this up and go over to the file to see what's created. So auth guard, and right here we have the auth guard, and what we want to do is to check if a user exists. If the user exists, we want to redirect them to the login page, and otherwise if they don't exist, we want to return false. You can see that this method returns a boolean, so you can either return true or you return false. You return true if the user exists, and then you can navigate them wherever you want, or you return false if the user doesn't exist, and you can also navigate them wherever you want. So let's do that. First, I would like to add the constructor to this class because the constructor wasn't generated with the class. So I'll use constructor, and now we have the constructor. We can inject the auth service to this class. So I'm going to say private auth service right here. And now we want to call the get auth method because that's the way we get an authenticated user in our application. So let me just take this return true off for now, and instead we want to return this dot auth service dot get auth. So this will get our authenticated user, and then we want to call the pipe method, and then we use our map operator from RxJS, and we get the auth user, and now we can do all our checking here. Let's import the map from RxJS, and here we want to check if this is not an authenticated user, then we want to redirect them back to the login page so that they can log in. And for us to do that, we need to inject the router to navigate them back to the login page. So I'm going to say private router, and we're injecting that from router. I'll get the automatic completion there, and you can see that we are importing that from Angular core, so Angular router there. And now we have the router. So if you're not authenticated there, our route guard would redirect you back to the login page. So I'm going to say this.router.navigate, and we want to take you back to the login page because you're not an authenticated user. Okay, and also we need to return a boolean after we've done that. So I'm going to return false. and else if we have an authenticated user, we want to return true. Okay, so our can activate method looks good. If we don't have an authenticated user, we want to redirect them to the login page and return false, and else if it's an authenticated user, we want to return true. Now let's try that out. In order for us to use this can activate method, we need to go to the app.routing page. So app.routing module where we have all our routes, and the page that we want to protect is our welcome component. So to protect the welcome component, we just we're going to add the can activate here, and then we're going to add it in an array because we can have multiple can activate guards, and then we're going to say auth guard here. So this is how we protect the route here, can activate auth guard. So I'm going to save that. We can take a look at the auth guard TS. So it's just the service that implements a can activate method, which returns a boolean or an observable of boolean. You want to call the method from your service to get the user. If you get the user, then if the user is logged in, you return true. Else if the user is not logged in, you return false and you redirect them to the login page. Let's try this and see if it works. So now I'm not logged in and I want to access the welcome page. So if I try to go to the welcome page, I can get there. I get redirected to the login page because I'm not an authenticated user, right? So that's the beauty of the route guard in Angular. It allows only the authenticated user to get into the protected resource. So in this case, our welcome component. So what if we're a login user? So I'm going to try to log in with our user, which is John Terry at gmail.com. This is our user. I want to log in. And now you see we get redirected to our welcome page. So this is our welcome page right here, and with our email. So now I can log out and you see I'm logged out. So in this video we implemented the remember me functionality. We added the toast notification messages to replace the confirm JavaScript dialog box. We implemented the auth guard to protect our welcome page, and we also displayed the email of the logged in user. All right, so we'll continue in the next video by working on the sign up page. So just like we have the login page, we're going to have a form that would allow the user to register and log in. All right, so that's it from me on this video. So I'll see you in the next video.